Hi, my name is Stella Huey and I'm the Youth Program Director at Mill Village Farms. Mill Village Farms is a youth program that its mission is to help teenagers get and keep meaningful work. This is what Mill Village Farms' spring course called Powered for Life. This class is specifically designed to help teens prepare to apply for and get summer jobs. Today's workshop topic is going to be resumes. Okay, so what is a resume? A resume is a tool that is used in getting an interview. So many employers are going to ask you when you apply for a job to fill out an application, and some will ask you to send in a resume. Some will ask you to turn in the application and a resume, and then others may ask for only the resume. So resumes tell employers three really important things about you: who you are, what experiences you have, and how to get in touch with you. There are many ways to write a resume. You can find a lot of templates online or in Microsoft Office or in Google Drive. These can be helpful tools, but it's important to remember to always keep it simple and make it really easy to read. So make sure your resume is clear and simple enough that an employer can learn something about you in those 7 seconds. Don't make them do any more work than necessary. So when deciding on a template, there are many places that you can get free templates or you can make your own on Microsoft Office. You do not need to purchase an online template. There are many sites that will offer you help in creating a resume if you Google resume help, but they will start to restrict you from downloading the resume that you've made unless you pay for the template. This is an unnecessary step. You can make a perfectly good professional looking resume on your own using Google Docs or Microsoft Office. You never need to pay for a resume template. So let's take a look at a resume. So this is an example resume. It's a made-up person. His name is Drew Harvey. And if you notice, this resume is 1 page long. Your resume should never be any longer than 1 page. So if you have more information than that, cut whatever you think is the non-essentials and make sure that you can fit it all on 1 page. The first part of a resume is your name and contact information. This may sound simple, but for many first-time job seekers, make major mistakes in this part. It is important to make sure that you use a phone number that you will check often and receives voicemails. Before you put a number down, make sure your voice mailbox is set up and sounds professional. If you're putting a parent's phone number down, make sure to let them know that you're expecting a call for you from an employer. Same goes for your email address. So make sure you put down a professional email address and one you check often. An employer won't track you down. If they send you an email and you don't respond, you'll move on to the next candidate. The next part, after they figured out who you are and how to contact you, is to give them all the information that they may need about your work history. Some people like to start with their work experience, others start with their education. It doesn't really matter what order you put it in. You just want to make sure that it's clear and concise. Make sure the font and spacing and location of each item is in the same place. You want to include the name of your employer, your job title, when you worked there, and what your job responsibilities were when you worked there. Only put things on your resume that make you look good. So if you worked at 3 different restaurants and you only worked at each of those restaurants for a month or 2, and you don't have a good relationship with that employer, leave it off your resume. You don't have to put every single thing you ever did. This is just an example to show employers that you're a good candidate for the job. Some other things that are really important, especially if maybe you don't have a ton of work history, which is totally fine, especially when you're first starting out and you're getting a first-time job, you can add a lot of other things that show your employer that you're working hard to help develop yourself as a person. Extracurriculars, clubs that you're involved in school, service projects that you've been a part of, volunteer work, any awards for grades or anything that you received in or out of school are a great place to put on your resume. You're just wanting to let your employer know that you're hardworking and that you're always working to better yourself, even if it hasn't yet been in a professional setting. I suggest going home and just making a long list of all the things that you think are part of your own personal development. That can be AP classes that you've been a part of, workshops that you've attended, days of service, any kind of extracurricular activity that you may have done in the last 3 or 4 years. You don't want to go back too far though. So if you're in high school, it's okay to include things from middle school, or if you're a freshman in college, it's okay to include some things from high school. But you don't want to go back too far. So you don't want to have things on your resume when you're applying for college that maybe you did in 6th or 7th grade. It's important to keep it relevant and not track down too much information from too far away. And if you're not sure what exactly is relevant, make a long list and then reach out to a family member or a teacher or someone from Mill Village Farms would love to tell you what they think is important to put on your resume. Every employer that you're sending this out to is different. They're all people and they're all looking for different things on a resume. So there's no exact formula for what people are looking for. We just want to make it as clear and simple as possible and add things that you're proud of, because you never know who your employer is and what they might connect with on your resume. The last thing is just a couple of tips that I've seen throughout the years that some students have had trouble with. So the first most important thing is to proofread, 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 proofread. Get as many friends or family members that you can find that'll help you to read over it. Any kind of typo or grammar mistake, an employer will think that you didn't care enough to take the time to proofread and that you're not really interested in the job that much. If you notice here, I have a typo right here, and this was after I had 3 different people proofread this for me. So everyone makes mistakes, but it's really important to check over as many times as possible to make sure that you have found every single grammar mistake. Next tip is you don't want to have too much white space. So if you can see here, there's a big block of white space at the bottom of this. You wouldn't want that. And also try to space things out. So if you've covered up the whole sheet, you want to make it kind of visually engaging for the person reading it. And so you want to make sure there's not like tons of big open white space. You want to fill the page up as much as possible. The last thing is don't ever use acronyms. So an acronym is an abbreviation such as if you're part of the National Honor Society, you don't want to put NHS. Remember that the person that you're sending this resume to may not know what those acronyms mean, and they don't want to search for what they are. Just make it really clear and spell out any acronym that you might have on your resume. All right, so now it's time for you to get started. So I would suggest all of you guys at your homes make a list of everything that you think is important to you and then start typing it out in a format. If you don't have access to a computer right now and you need to do it on your phone or do it in a note, that's totally fine. Once you get a draft finished, email it back to me and I will connect you with a mentor who is willing to help sit down with you one-on-one to help work out your resume. We'll find a time that works for both of you to meet over FaceTime or through a phone call, and they'll help you type out your resume and draft it and make sure that you have a final draft by the end of that meeting.